ever get to hear somebody like this on stage. And I must say, sir, we have a question for you. It's a question that I think most people here want to know about. What can the students of today, of India, do to solve today's challenges? I'm sure you'll be saying a lot, but we would love to know how you can solve today's challenges. Over to you.
Good morning, Coimbatore. Good morning. Greetings from Ladakh. Greetings, warm greetings from a rather cold Ladakh. I'm so happy to be among you all, and this vibrant warmth that I feel in this school, and the amount of energy here, everywhere in this school, has charged me, touched me, stimulated me, and I thank you for that. If not me, who? If not now, when? Is the spirit that we'll need to transform this country. Our own story in Ladakh, how we, as powerless, meek, helpless students, tried and challenged and changed systems. And when you speak of a place like Ladakh, it is in challenging circumstances, in adversities that solutions thrive. It is, as they say, necessity that is the mother of innovation or inventions. You often perhaps complain about the problems you have in your school, in your office, the shortage of resources and issues with this and that. Then you should know about Ladakh. Not even enough air. If you go there, you have to acclimatize for 48 hours because oxygen levels are 50 to 70% of what you have. So not just normal shortages, we are in short supply of even oxygen. But that doesn't mean but thrive. And that's the story I'll share with some pictures so that we can feel we have no challenges like this, and that for us. So this is Ladakh, top north of our country, across the Himalayas. Ladakh is nothing like that. Ladakh is beyond Himalayas, trans-Himalayas. And when we talk of trans-Himalayas, it's a different world altogether. Well, the Himalayas, if you learnt your geography, so when I open my windows in the morning, it looks more like Mars or Moon than planet Earth or Kashmir or Himachal. Is actually a picture of the Mars. Just to stimulate you a little and give you a little benchmark. But not very different from this is what I actually see outside my window. You'll see that it's not so different except for the signs of human activity. The temperature swings from plus 35 in summers to minus 35 in winters. Very much like outer space, you must have heard how it is. If you have your head in the sun and feet in the shade in winters. So this is what challenging circumstances means when you next time complain about your own circumstances. This is what our ancestors did to this barren land. When they came here, thousands of years ago, 100 millimeters of precipitation is all we have. And if there was a committee of scientists, they would declare this as uninhabitable. They looked at where else can they find water and went and explored those mountains and found what could be called fossilized water from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. Accumulation of snow over years into ice, solid ice, that then melts every spring or summer, and the trickle that comes down is channelized by these hardworking people by carving rivulets, canals in sheer faces of rocks to bring water, a trickle, to these sandy patches, and then magic happens. Fruits like apples, apricots, plums, peaches, grapes, and so on. All this magic because of undying spirit of our ancestors. The people here have not only survived, but a colorful civilization has thrived with its own language, literature, music, dance, and spirit of harmony with nature. I was born in a tiny village in this remote region, so remote that it stays cut off from the rest of the world for half the year, entire region of Ladakh, or a week, imagine. This place stays blocked for 5 to 6 months every year regularly, cut off from the rest of the world. That's what I meant when I said it's capital of challenges. In this remote region, there's a tiny village where I was born, and the village was so small that it had only 5 households. 10 households. Yes, some claps it deserves. Still a little smaller than Coimbatore, but we have 10 households today, 5 then. What that meant was that I didn't have a school to go. Such small villages don't get a school. That was the best thing that happened with my childhood, that I had no schools to go. That doesn't mean that you don't learn when you don't have a school. In fact, schools sometimes can hinder that learning. And that's perhaps why Mark Twain famously said, I have never allowed my schooling to interfere with my education. I was lucky to learn in my mother tongue from my mother and directly connect to things. Today, I tease my highly schooled friends saying, when you all were learning about roots and shoots and leaves from faded pages of textbooks, I was on the farm with the farmers, scattering seed on the ground, seeing the roots go down, shoots come up, leaves unfurl, without having to memorize spellings like L-E-A-F, leaf, L-E-A-V-E-S, for some reason, leaf. I was learning chasing animals in the mountains. I was learning climbing apricot trees, maybe about gravity when I fell with a third. I was learning floating in the Indus River and so on. Great schools are great schools. I'm sure this is a great school, but many schools miss that. So what my schooling was, which didn't have schools with walls and rooms and textbooks and teachers and so on, let me share a few pillars of my school. It had 3 very important pillars that I believe to make this country a country of problem solvers, transformers. Yeah? We need these pillars. The first pillar of my learning or education was curiosity. Curiosity is an amazing, you could call, software, a learning software, the best learning software ever produced. As long as there's curiosity, you are young like 18, even if you are 80 years old. If you have lost your curiosity, you're as old as 80 when you are 18. Curiosity is that important for learning and solving problems. Curiosity is what makes you really want to learn. In this day and age of paper knowledge, paper examinations, paper degrees, making you all paper tigers, this is what you really need to know nature, its phenomenon, and therefore solve the problems. Until you have the second pillar of my schooling, and that I call empathy. But a feeling in the heart for everybody's problems, wanting to solve those problems, feeling the pain of others. This is what we need to transform India. Business entrepreneurs need empathy if they want to be great businesses. Best businesses in the world are the ones that actually solve real problems of the people. And the best innovators start with empathy. They don't start with income, how much I want to earn. They start with impact. So empathy, my friends, is the most important thing after curiosity. Most schools today do the opposite. They train students only to think about themselves, to come first, to be on the top, to climb on other people's, whereas empathy is about collaborating, teamwork, rising together. Similarly, most schools that are not great schools kill the curiosity of the students by asking them not to do this, not to ask that, not to talk about this. In the name of discipline, we actually delete the very software that is needed for learning. And then we wonder. And the parents also do the same at home. And our schools need to do more to make our students more empathetic, more feeling hearts than just clever heads. The third and the most important thing that is needed for changing the world, for transforming the country or the planet, is initiative. The spirit of initiative. Thinking that it's me who is responsible to change things. I don't have others. Not waiting for others to do it. I especially learnt it more from my father, who wouldn't sit still, hand on hand, no matter what it was, whether a broken door handle in the house, he would go out and fix it. When you have initiative, spirit of initiative, a whole world of success follows. Experiences of failing, even more than succeeding, gives you the confidence how not to fail and do it right. Like you saw, the Chandrayaan failed, but that gave them the lesson and the confidence to succeed. My schooling was till 9 years of age. At 9, I was dragged into schools, and there ended, I say, my true learning. Because in schools, I was made to memorize things which I was not good at, and I was not even good at languages. I spoke nothing but my own mother tongue, Ladakhi, at 9, and they thought I was mentally retarded, so I was left on the last benches of the classroom most of the times. That was when I was lucky. Other times I would be standing outside the door. But today I say, at least in some ways, I was an outstanding student. Yeah? This is what schools in Ladakh were doing meanwhile. I caught up very quickly because my foundations were very good on those 3 pillars. And there, to support my own education, I had to teach students. And while teaching students, I learned about the system. And the system was such in those days, 95% of the students were failing. Like most people did, scold the children, call them names and call them stupid. I thought there must be reasons. We have to go to the root causes of why they are failing. Very soon I saw that in these Trans-Himalayan mountains, you give children textbooks that speak Hindi, Urdu, or English, and then talk about things that no child in the mountains understand. So I would go to schools and hear A is abstract, just a symbol, so you need something concrete. An apple is so nice for a child. Ball, but then it goes on to say F for fan, F for fan. Now it's -10 in the class, -20 outside, and F for fan. They are at their wits' end. And they ask the teachers, but sir, what does this mean? I have never seen. And the teacher scratches his head and says, oh son, I have also not seen this. So that was then I saw why the children are failing. In fact, what I questioned, was how come those 5% are passing? Started thinking to myself, what will I do with an engineering degree, even knowledge to use light and lenses and so on, when these children who I teach will all be shackled and in trouble all their lives. So as realization developed, which I say, life is not just about what I need. It's also about what needs me. That's the empathy part that I learned from my mother. When my friends in the engineering college were all queuing up to go to the Silicon Valley and Bangalore and so on, I went back to this place to change the education system. And I was just 21. Nobody would take me seriously. I am a victim of the education system, and I'm pretty well qualified to change this system as a victim. And as for funds and resources, I said I have none of those, but I make resources out of whatever is available. So what was available? Can somebody guide me in how this works, in what direction it works? Yeah. Okay. Do whatever it takes. Don't complain you have no funds, you have no experts, you are in a remote region. You do whatever it takes. So we said, let's make best of whatever we have. And what we had were helpless little souls who were down and depressed and almost contemplating suicide. These were those 95% who were failing every year. Every family had 1 or 2 or 3 of those, down and depressed. Ants, yeah? So an ants army, what this was, when we started actually doing it, teenagers who had failed once or twice or thrice, they couldn't do the exams well, but they could do street plays very well. They could sing beautifully. They could write lyrics about their own situation. So we prepared an army of such helpless teenagers. They would go out to the villages on campaigns to stir the soul of the people, especially the leaders. What mess have you made of us, yeah, in the schools? There's no true learning. There's no resources, and so on. And we mobilized the people to make education as the top priority, because that's what will solve your... No PhDs. You know, the PhD consultants wouldn't dance like them, wouldn't do street plays like them, wouldn't change the minds and hearts of people in the villages. But these young teenagers did. And the village communities and the state, meaning the government, we formed a triangular bond of collaboration. And what that meant is, after the children went out into villages to move their souls, mobilize them, they started repairing the schools, from dilapidated schools to like these. All government schools, state-run schools. People built them. People actually built them with voluntary labor. We changed all the textbooks, but we said we'll work with the government, change the board, change the textbooks. So it was like a student-driven movement where grown-ups were mobilized to take charge of their schools. Officers were mobilized to change the curriculum, change the textbooks. Teachers were trained, and hundreds of teachers, thousands of them were trained rather than blamed. And slowly, with all these changing, studying the root cause and changing one by one, these groups of helpless students, percentage in the schools also, from 5% regularly, it went to 75%. You know, in a democracy, actually, leaders don't lead. Leaders follow the people's moods. And these teenagers, these ants armies, change the mood of the people. In other words, when the government declared education as the top priority in 1996, it was actually these teenagers who had changed the policy. This is what students, even those who have failed, can do. So you can imagine what you all can do. Transform India is possible. One student at a time, one self at a time. 75% pass is great, but even 25% failing is not good. No one should be a failure. We should teach the way they learn, these 25%. For them, we started a special school, a different school, which is very different from most schools. First of all, in that at this school, the admission criteria is not your distinction and your position. It's that you have failed in the system. That's because we wanted to support those. If you have done very well, you have a distinction, you could be on the waiting list. Social studies and civics and governance and administration, they actually live it by running the school like a little country with a little government and a little parliament, little elections. So the elected government there is planning for the next 2 months. They have a tenure of 2 months. And during the 2 months, they implement, execute, and at the end of the 2 months, they have to present in the parliament. Yeah? Thus, learn life skills from life, not textbooks. But when they are given all the responsibility to run themselves, the school itself, You know, I was recently in Afghanistan for solar heated shelters, and people asked me, was it safe? Was it safe? And I said, it's the safest it can be. Why? Because Taliban is in power. So you give the charge to the students, let them run the school and relax and be creative with their curriculum and do something creative, oh teachers. Don't run after disciplining them. Give them respect, give them responsibility. They'll pretty well take care of themselves and more, is what the school does. The girl who became the in charge of animal husbandry takes care of all the cows and the milk productivity. But then, at the end of 2 months, she has data about each day, each cow, how much milk production. Solar heated gadgets. Some are responsible for them, take charge of energy, understand energy, and research about it. Others take charge of the campus organic garden. Now, they sell their product as an entrepreneur to the campus kitchen at a selling price. And then they work backwards to find the cost price and practically learn profit is equal to selling price minus cost price. Yeah? This is Rigzin. He became the minister of the Hill Council government at 27. This is Dorje, who's a famous filmmaker today, winning awards on all continents. This is Chorol. She is an entrepreneur and was given the President's Award, the Nari Shakti Award. Elite schools or rich families. No, actually, what is common among them is they are all repeated 10th grade failures. Rigzin, who became the education minister after becoming a top journalist, had failed 10th grade 5 times. And a school like that, he had a red carpet. Yeah? At this school, energy from nature is the way of life. Sustainability is lived, as all gadgets, all systems are run on solar energy, from cooking to greenhouses, to lighting, to electricity, to hot water that the students make, pumping water from the Indus, which is much lower, to even the cows. They suddenly, after the solar heated cowshed started giving more milk. Later we could learn that it's to do with our biology lessons in 8th grade or so. When you give that artificially from solar heat, much cheaper, then their food, a part of it becomes milk and therefore double the milk. So we understood some biology. The science classes around heat transfer, conduction, convection, radiation, you must have all studied. Now what that means is when the average outside temperature is minus 20 in January, inside it is plus 18. What that means is it is always warmer than a house in New Delhi, in Ladakh in January. When we started with these earth-built, soil, mud-built buildings with sun as the energy, people laughed at us. We said, this works best in the circumstances. We have cold, we have no rain. Why not use earth, which is what our ancient tradition is? But then, slowly the world catches up. By 2016, the same buildings were given the Terra Award at the World Earth Congress 2016. Yeah? By 2017, the same systems at this campus got us the Global Award for Sustainable Architecture. So the world catches up, that of climate change and global warming. So the glaciers that feed our villages, now these are melting away very fast. Soon we won't have water. So at our school, again, with some empathy and some curiosity, we said, how about making our own glaciers? Together with my students, we embarked upon a project. If you freeze the water from the streams in the winter, which is what our proposal was, in January you freeze, we can keep it till June. So they laughed, from January to June, how can you keep ice? All the snow and ice is gone by March. Shapes like spheres, hemispheres, even cones. So we said, if you do your ice, you freeze your water in January in these shapes, it should last longer. Because we don't want to give the sun high surface area, because that is what it needs to melt them. Frozen ice in these shapes, and lo and behold, it lasted till June, which is when it melts slowly, and you can see In winter, it is made, and in spring, it is unmade, or it melts, and the water is collected in those tanks, just gravity fed, just a pipe, no pump. If you are thinking it must take a big pump to lift so high, no, it's just gravity of the hill slopes. So villages all around Ladakh started making it. Countries like Switzerland, Czech Republic, now Chile in South America, Pakistan, Nepal, so they're all making these glaciers. This one on the left was made by villagers. Villagers made much bigger than anything we could build. This is half the height of Qutub Minar and holds 12 million liters of water. This, again, the world catches up, got us the Rolex Award for Enterprise and a handsome amount of money, which we used to start an alternative university this time. The world stands aside to let pass those who know where they're going. So you have to have that confidence from lots of experiences, from lots of actions, failures, and some successes. So that's when you start transforming your world. Now, when education was the biggest challenge in Ladakh, today I think environment is the biggest challenge in the country and in the world. Global warming, climate change will be the biggest challenges in the coming times. Who can change the situation in the world in this time of global warming and doom and disaster? It's people in the big cities of the world, New Delhi, New York, Chennai, Coimbatore, Beijing, Paris. We need to change people in these cities to change their lifestyles. Invite people to pledge to change their lifestyles. We in the mountains are facing, survival and death because of the melting glaciers, because of the climate change induced by human activity in big cities. We started a campaign called the I Live Simply movement, where people contribute, not money, because the planet doesn't need money. Maybe some of you will pledge to walk to school rather than have your parents drop you in big cars. Yeah? I think children are so powerful in their families, they can change the behavior of their parents. Yeah? Changes, because if you feel the pain of people in the mountains like me, or the birds and bees and trees that suffer also because of our so-called comfort and convenience, they may change their priorities, and next time they may change governments or at least government policies towards the environment. That's how powerful you students, children are. If you saw last winter, I started with a video saying all is not well in Ladakh because our glaciers are melting because of industries and the extravagant lifestyle in Delhi, Chandigarh, Mumbai, and so on. So we said, you all have comfortable lives and we are dying. I would rather die of cold and hunger than not convey to you our SOS message. So this is the SOS message, that we need to change our lifestyles. And I want you all students to be Ladakh's partners, Ladakh's supporters, so we save the glaciers up there when you make your parents, your governments change policies to live simply. And this appeal has been made by our Prime Minister also in Mission Life. Mission Life is about changing lifestyles, minimalism, so that we can all live happily rather than trashing the planet in one puff of smoke. That is not the end, because it's only the beginning with you all joining forces. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you were the Prime Minister of India, what are the 3 things that you would do to bring about large-scale reform in our country?
I would change the education system completely. Redefine is the word. I'll redefine education to not stick to what started 300 years ago when we wanted to exploit, produce, consume. Today we need to heal the planet. So if you put the same fuel, you'll get the same poison. You need to put medicines if you want to heal the planet. I would redefine religion. Climate violence as also a sinful activity. We only think of stabbing people and killing people as sin. Actually, we are living very sinful lives when we drive our big cars or fly our aeroplanes. We are today Air pollution alone kills 7 million people. And that comes to the level of death at World War I and II. So there's a third world war going on. So religion needs to be redefined to see what is virtue and what is sinful.
And the third one? Third? Anything else? Third.
Third one, yeah, like we said, each individual feels responsible. We don't look here or there, we look at ourselves. That mirror is the change.
So I have a question, sir. There are, so you're somebody who brings about a lot of, you're in the middle trying to bind traditional wisdom and traditional knowledge with modern technology. How do you, don't you think it's two different approaches, like very, very contrasting approaches? How do you bring them together when you have to bring drastic change?
Like they say, it's simple to be complicated. It's difficult to be simple. So I try to keep things very simple, and their traditional knowledges and wisdoms and practices are as helpful. So why not cash in on them? Why, replace them with something that you don't even know works or not? Like medicine. We have left aside our herbal medicines to go for these chemicals, and only to realize that these chemical medicines cure the disease but kill the patient.
So what and all difficulties you find in this works?
What kind of difficulties?
What are your biggest challenges?
Now challenges are very relative. It's all about what you expect. If you expect no challenges, if you expect a flat tarmac of a road, then any little pebble is a challenge. But if you expect a rough road with all kinds of boulders and so on, then all problems are no problems.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. I'd like a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
An absolute visionary in the truest sense.
Thank you.
It's an absolute honor to be standing on the stage with you, sir, and learning from the best. This was clearly 45 minutes of very, very precious time of ours and yours. So I feel like this was great learning for us. Thank you.
Thank you very
Education,
much.
a true learning for us today is that education never stops. And it doesn't have to be limited to the classroom or the school. And he is a true living example of that. Thank you again.